Hello, everyone, and welcome to the bi-weekly meeting with Project Koala. We have a newcomer, Valerio. Hi, and welcome. If you want to, you can introduce yourself.
Hello, guys. I've been here many times at the very, very beginning of this project, so I'm not exactly new.
Okay. Welcome, then. Welcome back. Good to see you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Steve, do you have any updates from CycloneDX or ECMA on the other groups related to us?
Yeah, the only update that I have is really around some of the documentation that we need to be able to generate for as an output of TG1.
Yes.
So let me try to find that link. I've got way too many windows open at the moment.
Is this the tool set from TC39, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is the I'm just going to put that in the chat, and you can share it if you want, Ole. But I've got the scaffolding in place to be able to generate the ECMA documentation. We're using the same toolkit that TC39 created for the JavaScript/ECMAScript language. And that markup, which is a specialized markup called EC markup, ECMAScript markup, allows us to simultaneously use that resulting HTML that it generates to have both online documentation that's searchable, ECMA branded and all that sort of thing, as well as the end PDFs that we need for distribution for an international standard. So a single document, multiple purposes, all the scaffolding is currently in place. So really it's just up to us now to leverage EC markup effectively and start working on populating that part once we start getting rough consensus on how it's all should be, outlined and worded and stuff. So anyway, that's my update. Yeah.
Is it just regular? I'm just thinking for the diagrams and the graphs, which inevitably will be part of this schematic and this documentation exercise. What are these SVGs, or are there any constraints in terms of what can be published or what should be included for as output for that?
SVGs are preferred.
Okay.
So yeah, that way, if we've got the resulting PDF, you can obviously blow that up, and it will scale accordingly. There is no intermediary format going from like the EC markup to like Microsoft Word to like PDF. So it goes directly from EC markup to the PDF. We use a tool called God, what is the name of it? It starts with a P. Anyway, it is one of the only tools that actually support all of the CSS print styles.
Pandoc?
No. Pandoc doesn't support nearly anything that we need. No, this is a tool. It is both open source and commercial. But let me, what was the name of that? Oh, it was called Prince XML. And it supports all of the advanced CSS styles that actually most of the browsers actually don't even support, specifically for CSS print media types. So yeah, that's where we're at. Aki, who's one of the contributors to TC39 and has authored a lot of EC markup and that whole tool chain, she's been very supportive, helping us along throughout the way, adopting it successfully. So anyway, that's my update from TC54.
Okay, cool. So I guess we need to check whether, currently we write Markdown, but we're far away from being in a publishing state, but we need to make sure we use a dialectal markdown that's easy to bring into this process.
Markdown
'cause
HTML should be
ultimately-
easy.
Yeah, because ultimately, you know, everything's going to be moved over to the new repo.
Yep.
Once we start finalizing the community work, but all that stuff is going to be moved over, and ultimately the ECMA repo will end up being the source of truth.
Hmm.
And the existing repo will likely be archived.
Yep. We'll probably keep the existing repo for presentations and other stuff, but not the
Yeah.
specification. Great, thank you. We did publish a blog. I hope you've seen it. Benny, who leads the Common Lifecycle and Enumeration Group, and I wrote a blog entry that Steve helped us publish. The website is rather messed up, so it's hard to find. I don't know what's going on the website. Most of the viewing spaces are empty calendar. But anyway, I think it's well, it's worth pushing for the life cycle events. We have tickets where we need to follow them. I think they have meetings also. Is it bi-weekly?
It is, yeah.
But yeah, Wednesdays when we haven't got Koala week meetings, they have it a bit later at 7 o'clock Central European time, Mark. So we need to start interacting with them. KoalaCon, again, I encourage you to spread the word about the video. I think the video always was the most important part. It's great to have an audience and make a big splash of it. But for everyone worldwide that is looking into implementations and so the video is the thing that makes sense. I will publish the PDFs of the presentations as well on our repo. As soon as I'm done sitting in the studio editing the videos from other events I've been participating in. Any other issues or feedback about how we run that? I guess we have to learn to be rock stars on YouTube, but
I think it went well. As well as it could have gone for first event, so
yeah,
nothing.
No,
Yeah, a few
We
minor
don't-
hiccups, but other than that, I thought it was great. Everybody did a
Yeah.
fantastic job presenting. We had some great questions toward the end. Yeah, I thought it was very successful.
Yep. Beautiful. Let's make it extremely popular on YouTube. Where do I go to buy 1 million viewers in Asia? Okay, you can take it offline off meeting later. 2 weeks ago, we had a brief discussion about Open Office Brainstorm, and I got messages now on Slack saying that this particular time isn't a good time. So I will try possibly after Christmas, everything is getting busy now and everyone is getting busy, to start having meetings, I would say, before lunch, European time, to cover some of Asia and have something in another time slot, office hours, where we can go through just general questions or issues that we need to clear out and move away. I guess we'll start to have them bi-weekly in the weeks we haven't got this meeting. And we'll test them and see how it goes. Other events, FOSDEM, I have proposed a few talks related to Koala and SBOMs. Has anyone else done that? Oh, Oh, Victor, you have so much to share.
I unfortunately won't make FOSDEM and probably not State of Open this year. But I might be able to pop into State of Open for a day. But yeah, though.
Which
I
days
can't.
are State of Open?
I think it's 6th and 7th of 3rd or 4th. I think. Let me check. It's
Okay,
it's
it's
first
the
week of
week
Feb, I
after,
think.
the week after FOSDEM then.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yep.
4th to 5th.
Okay, cool. I'll see if I can make it, but then I'll probably just swing by directly from Brussels to London.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people
Yeah.
do. Fly into London, take the train down to Brussels, and then return from London.
Yeah. Steve, do we know if anyone else from OWASP is coming or
I'm not
participating?
aware. I'm not aware of any activities. I cannot participate because I will be in Barcelona in May. So I'm trying to limit my travels. And I'll probably be in Barcelona for 2 weeks, 1 week for OWASP, and well, it's Spain, so I'm gonna hang out.
Nice.
But
Mm.
yeah, I'm not aware of anyone else. I have mentioned it to the OWASP board that we should be supporting FOSDEM. I don't know. I will try to follow up with that.
We'll continue trying. It's every year, so we just have to make sure things happen.
I know some people submitting SBOM-like talks. I know Richard Hughes, who's the man behind FW Update and LVFF. He's doing a big SBOM push right now, and he's submitted a CFP. I know that much about to FOSDEM.
Yeah.
About SBOMs, but yeah. And I've known a few people doing SBOM talks.
I proposed 3 different talks. Anthony Harrison proposed 3 different ones, and what was his name? Uvtot from Malta proposed a few ones as well. So we really pushed hard, but we'll see. The SBOM Dev Room, I think Kate Stewart is one of the organizers for that. We have the European Legislation Dev Room, and we have the Security Dev Room. There was one more. The Security Dev Room added supply chain security, which I found interesting. So I proposed something there. And then I proposed something in the main track. We'll see what happens. I was at OWASP Benelux, by the way, last week. And got a lot of questions and discussions about CycloneDX. Met a lot of interesting people, did a talk on CRA and one SBOM CycloneDX training with a taste of tea, of course. So it went very well. I'm very happy. About 300 people in Utrecht. So a pretty large crowd for a European conference.
Was that recorded, and was it in English?
It was in English. I could, at least I think I understood most of the speakers. Yeah. And it was recorded. We'll see when they can publish it.
Okay.
Not the training though, but the talks. And there were actually some really good talks on AI, not filled with all that hype and glory. So I really enjoyed myself. AppSec Barcelona, I haven't spoken with Lauren about having a Plugfest hackathon or something. Do you know if anything has happened there? Or if we
I
should...
thought she was on leave for a little while, like an extended vacation. I'm not sure when she's
Lauren
coming back.
responded today because
did she?
Ads she'd been running had the wrong dates. It has the same date in the picture for the training and the conference, and she fixed that now. So at least she's online. Okay.
Yeah, I know she sent out an email for all the OWASP events earlier today.
Okay, so she's definitely back.
Yeah, and we need to get with her at some point, so that we can, once we kind of finalize what we're going to do in Barcelona in terms of like a Plug Fest or maybe another KoalaCon or whatever, we can have the foundation help us promote that.
Yeah. I did send some ideas and reference to the IETF hackathon, how they organized. They had a pretty book yesterday. She and Star could study and learn and come back with questions. So we'll see what happens. And I talked with Niklas from the Pencil Track, and he would love having that. He was about to talk with his, his community in meetings. I don't know if you, Mark or Steve, have heard anything about that, but
I think the
I think-
community meeting is that later today?
Oh, this
Yeah, I
is
think it's
today.
later
Okay.
today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to attend the first part of it, but hopefully I'll be able to
Okay.
attend the second part. But yeah, that's
No, I think it would be beneficial for Hyadis and to have a hackathon to make sure all the APIs work, all the current implementations work.
Yeah.
That's at least what I told him.
I can confirm that the dependency track community meeting will be at 6 o'clock European. It's likely to be a shorter meeting because there's not so much to cover. It's basically talking about the latest patch release, which came out like a few hours ago. And then Q&A. So we normally go for about an hour, but it might only last half an hour today.
Okay, cool. So AppSec Barcelona will keep track of that, but I urge everyone to send in your papers and submit talks. AppSec is a really cool event. There is a new group formed by Linux Foundation on the topic of CRA. They didn't join the Eclipse working groups for this. So I have to monitor that to make sure that we are not promoting any specific version of a standard and try to get T in. But all of this movement surrounding CRA makes it really important to get going and get first version of T out. So we have something for the implementation guides. Dimitri isn't here. Skit canceled the community meeting. So we'll see, but we're in talks about organizing something together surrounding transparency logs and digital signatures. And the same goes for SIGSUM. December 10th, I'm invited to the SPDX tech meeting to talk about T. This is a fairly small meeting, but with the core SPDX team. So I'm very happy for that. We've been discussing this for a couple of months now. Those were the main issues I had on the agenda, and boy, did we go through that fast. Great. Now we haven't got everyone. Paul couldn't come and Piotr couldn't come. That's been involved in discussions about the URI and URL. So I think we have to call for another meeting to resolve all those issues. Piotr and I had a discussion. But we both changed our positions a little bit. But yesterday I got hold of Daniel Stenberg, who is the main core developer, and had a long discussion with him. He lives and breathes HTTP circles, and he very plainly told me that, well, he's got support of this on his to-do list, but very, very few people in the HTTP world are interested in DNS more than getting IP addresses. So he didn't believe that separation of identity and location would ever work in HTTP. We have to find other ways of separating. I still go back and forth on the URI versus URL thing. I think having a URI identifier may be beneficial, but we need to discuss this back and forth. But this means that companies with 2 data centers with different IPs with no knowledge about BGP or so can't have any failover. It's either single IP or BGP NFI, anycast in a cloud service or similar setup. But I guess we just have to live with that like the rest of the HTTP world and be happy.
I think that's a sensible call. We have to be a bit pragmatic.
I'm pissed off, but I understand. And when I hear it from people in the HTTP world, then well, have to take that fight somewhere else and teach them a lesson. But we need to figure this out and see, have a discussion what we really need in the TI. I think making it a URL would create wrong assumption that this is something you can put in your browser. So I think having a URL still makes sense, but let's have that discussion when we have a few more people around.
I don't think they're mutually exclusive, though, to be fair. Like, there is a scenario where they coexist, like where there is a user interface for that in the browser as well.
Yeah, but should that be on the same location? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, right
That's-
now we're using the well-known construct because it's not a URL, and the well-known construct gives us a lot of power. That's where we can redirect to a service provider. We can do failover. We can do a lot of cool stuff with a redirect at the well-known base. But if we skip the well-known base, we have almost nothing.
It's a
We have to go.
standardized. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to go back and forth a bit and resolve this. Okay, we have a lot of issues that we need to start working on. I've been busy traveling around having seminars, but I'll start to look at them. I don't think we have time to go through all of them here. We have life cycle events, looking at the CLE. Add use case for multi-tenancy. We haven't got that. Those are rather simple. But we also have a discussion about the query parameters, and somewhere Victor and I had a discussion. I don't remember if it was a pull request or an issue about the data model for a product. That's something we didn't specify earlier on.
It was in the pull request for the open API specs, I believe.
Yeah, okay. Great, thank you. But my belief is that so far, until we change it, the identifier, we should, like in Perl, we should be able to add new identifier types without having to change the database and the API model, because when we go into standardization, our change pace will be fairly slow. And I would like to see us being able to add all kinds of crazy data types faster. So I think there's an argument for decoupling them. I understand what you're trying to do, providing a query interface, but assuming that there's a single barcode for a single product, I think is wrong.
The structure doesn't necessarily. I guess the fundamental difference, I guess, I think in the way I see it is it if it's an opinionated or non-opinionated specification, I guess. And I would argue that a structured, more opinionated structure makes for a easier adoption and better standards. I guess it's almost an analogy between SPDX and CycloneDX, where CycloneDX is more opinionated than SPDX. Where there is a way to do things rather than 10 ways to do things. And I think that makes for an easier to implement, easy to follow.
I love the argument, but I don't think it applies here. I think decoupling the TI is important, and assuming that there's just a single barcode for one product will create problems. Or a single of any type.
I'm not arguing
So
that.
we need
I'm arguing that.
arrays with meta
Oh, yeah.
where we have the type and you have the data for that type.
Oh, I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. What I'm arguing
Okay.
is there needs to be a defined set of metadata parameters that are preset, so you can't arbitrarily add parameters, because that's where it gets that's where it
Because
gets complicated.
that will hurt interoperability. You have to follow
Yes.
specs.
Yes.
So we have
So-
to be very clear of that. And I think I had another discussion, or I had an issue, because I'm after all my years in ITF, I've seen there are some groups that define specs that are very open-ended, and we end up with no interoperability at all.
Yes.
And that's would be a failure if you have to have dependency track on both ends, and dependency track can't speak with anything else. So we need a tightly spec'd specification. I
Yes.
do believe that if we open for vendor extensions, it's gonna be.
Oh yeah. My view is
it's always hard with vendor extensions where you place them, right?
Yeah.
But
I mean,
I think the data structure you proposed originally there was too limited.
Possibly.
But
It was the draft, obviously. I'm suggesting
that's why we have pull requests to discuss.
But I guess what I'm saying is there should be a set of keys that are predefined, and they can be lists or arrays. That's fine. But that
can be an
never changes.
enum, but the enum should properly refer to the TEI spec hardly, right? Instead of hard coding it in the open API spec. I don't know. Whenever you have time, we can hash this out in code and agree. I think we are agreeing on the general things. We just have to code it.
Yeah, exactly. Because and then if we want to add the new type of metadata, that would be in the next revision of the API, essentially. And that for a given API, those are the specs, and we can introduce new specs in the next version, and that's fine, and that's how the evolution should work, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we understand that version 1.0 will be very basic.
Yes,
and then we'll move on, but we're gonna have. We just need to get going so we can prove interoperability. It's basically right now it's a glorified file transfer, but it builds the foundation for the next level, which is insights. That's going to have much, I would say, more interesting APIs. But even so, the glorified file transfer makes a lot of sense for many companies. I get very positive feedback when I'm out meeting people and getting.
I'm gonna start working on the on insights, by the way.
Okay.
I've talked to a number of different organizations that hi Vandana, that that are interested in this, that really didn't even know that we're doing this. And in every single case, these organizations are much more interested in the questions than the actual artifacts. And I've also been thinking about, ways that we can optimize the API and that sort of thing. And what I'm basically concluding over the last month or so of kind of looking at this and looking at the types of questions that we need to be able to answer, is that essentially what we're going to be designing, I mean, besides the query language, because that's one part, and I've got some ideas around that, but more importantly, the data model that I keep on coming back to is essentially what theoretically could be CycloneDX 2.0. It is a CycloneDX like model, that in terms of like an HTTP response that is going to provide you the necessary information about that particular query, and do so in a way that, again, is going to limit the amount of round trips that would be necessary for you to get that information. And yeah, it's every time I think of different types of questions, like for example, I was talking to a company doing AI ML the other day, and the day before that, we had the patents working group, and being able to ask the API questions on patents. I keep on coming back to essentially a CycloneDX like 2.0 model. Um,
Cool.
so for what that's worth, anyway, I'm going to be working on that.
But do we have any query language or similar in dependency track? Or
We
is-
do
I haven't
not.
looked into that part.
We do not. However,
Okay.
I am seriously considering using either cell directly or using a derivative of cell, the common expression language, because
okay.
that's what dependency track uses for its policy engine. That is what
I was thinking
Kubernetes
about
uses.
what I've seen in policy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty robust expression language that I don't know if it's going to handle all of our use cases. If not, we can always extend it, but it provides a really solid foundation for some really basic queries that we need to perform.
Mm.
Just
But
one caveat, that Cell is implemented in Hyades, which will become dependency track version 5. It's not available in 4.x, which
That's
is
true.
the current production release.
okay. I know Guac has some sort of, what's that? Anyone that knows? Is it?
They have their own query language, I'm pretty sure.
Isn't it GraphQL or?
The backend is, yes, but I don't know if there's an abstraction on top of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go down the GraphQL route. Just FYI, there are too many security considerations that we need to think about, and it's going to leave a lot of it'll leave a lot of work for implementers to address those security concerns.
I think that's the right call, and also it certainly raises the bar for implementation as well, because it's obviously it's a lot more difficult to implement GraphQL than this just the RESTful API.
Yeah.
We need to address authorization and include this in the thoughts.
Mhm.
I will just have to have a very, very upfront and honest discussion with Ole Johansson about converting that PowerPoint slide into Markdown and submitting it in a PR. Lazy guy.
Slacker.
Yeah, slacker, totally slacker. Okay, great.
Just before we move on, one question. Steve, you were talking about extending Cell. Does that mean something which is contributed back to the Cell project, or what?
Possibly. For example, I'll give you an example. So, Cell assumes that you know what you're querying on, right? That you actually have a model that you know in advance that you're querying on, which may not necessarily be the case here, unless we actually describe essentially a meta model that could theoretically, describe every single possible thing that we ever want to represent, which would be a mountain of work. But I do believe that we need a way to identify, and maybe it's a combination of a couple different models. I don't know. But for example, if we need to query inventory, well, how do you specify in Cell that I want to query the inventory of software components or the inventory of hardware components? Or maybe I want to query on what are all the patents used. I don't necessarily know how I would represent that in Cell today. because again, you know, it kind of assumes that you already know what model you're querying against. And I think it's a rightful assumption, but in our case, I don't necessarily know if that's going to be true.
I haven't played with Cell, but does it take like a schema for a specification as input and then render on top, like abstract a query language on top of that?
You can. That's basically what we kind of do for the dependency track data model. So we expose the dependency track data model, and it's basically, you know, object dot property less than, you know, whatever type of syntax, right? It's pretty expressive and self-explanatory if you've ever kind of dot walked the schema before. But again, you need to kind of know what that model is when you're querying it. So maybe there's a way to do it without modifying Cell. Maybe we actually have essentially a meta model that describes like all the things that we could theoretically query on. And then based on those things that we could theoretically query on, then we actually go down to the actual things themselves, right?
Because I guess the biggest problem is really what you're really curious about is actually not the data model, it's actually the payload in the artifacts. That's so you basically need.
The assumption here is that we have a database that have parsed at least the SBOMs, right, or the bombs. So we query the bombs directly. The other artifacts are still.
No. We're not going to be querying the bombs. That's not what we're doing. So implementers basically need to normalize their data. Right? That normalization, once that data is then normalized, and again, only the open source projects, commercial vendors, they're the ones that need to normalize this, right? Dependency track does it, for example. We normalize the data. And then once you actually have normalized data, your syntax for querying that is consistent. So that's the reason why I think that we're going to get so much adoption, because the SBOM format, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Because you have a normalized model.
We query the SBOM data normalized from the files. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Valerio, you have a question. Your hands up.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this Cell. Basically, I'm building a platform around the dependency track. So I have this need of creating a simple way to query my metadata. And unfortunately, I discovered Cell after I was done with my implementation. But what I do is to solve this problem, to create enrichment and more queries, I have a caching in between the dependency track, which is basically Elasticsearch, and then I expose APIs. Then I have a contract on those APIs, and then I can query those APIs with whatever I need. So I can query software inventory, asking the use case that Steve, you mentioned, the license. And then I get everything I want much, much faster. In my case, I've done a little bit of dog fooding on 7,000 repositories. Nice. And with not so much resources and optimization, it works pretty well. Okay, so maybe we can connect later on.
Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of rephrase what you said so I understand it, you took a prescriptive approach where you put some stuff in the API that you knew that you were going to query against, and then you use Cell to actually perform the queries.
Unfortunately, not Cell, a similar approach. Okay, because I discovered Cell once I was done.
Oh, okay, got it. All right, but that's the approach that you took.
We are there,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I need the standards, I need the normalization. So I don't care what is in between. In the end, offer a contract, I consume a contract. And I need a simple rule of engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Has anyone looked at OpenSSF protobuf for? I think they're trying to do normalization there as well, but
yeah, but that's they're only limited to SBOM. So like all the cryptography, all the machine learning, all the configuration, they don't do any of that. Okay. So we cannot unfortunately rely on that project.
No.
And I guess we cannot make an assumption that for every artifact there is a schema to consume either.
Right.
No. We have to select a few types, and that's why we properly need to look through the type definition of artifacts. Right now we have 2 different fields, and unfortunately I think we still need them. We have the MIME media type, and we have the enumeration we stole from CycloneDX, because saying that a file is an application's CycloneDX or application JSON type CycloneDX doesn't tell us anything about what type of CycloneDX, what we're describing with CycloneDX. And that's why we needed an extra enumeration. But it's for PDFs, it's application PDF. That's pretty simple. We don't need possibly the extra. For some of these, I mean, we need a better description than just this is a JSON file or this is a CycloneDX file. We probably need to know a bit more about it.
But in the end, what is inside a structure doesn't matter.
No, but if it's
JSON,
XML. But if it's PDF manual or anything else, I mean, people, the clients will want to choose what they're looking for, right? So if we could have 3 different CycloneDX files, and we need to separate them. One is a VEX file, another is just attestation, and the third one is the SBOM. Oh, and we could have a CBOM.
I'm treating them separately, and I can combine them when I need to have them combined. Otherwise, they can go on their own life cycle.
Yep.
VDR, SBOM with vulnerabilities, VEX.
Yep. We'll figure it out. Anything else you want to discuss in this meeting? Otherwise, I'm open for finishing.
Just
Steve
one
and
quick
I
question.
have another meeting soon. Yes, absolutely.
Can I say something?
Yeah, but Valerio
Sorry,
first, then
I'm
Banana.
late to the party here. Is it possible that I can actually hear the old recordings so that I can gear myself up and contribute better?
Absolutely. I think they're all on the CycloneDX YouTube channel.
Oh,
We should
okay.
Yeah, let me
probably
find a link.
we should
That'll be very, very helpful.
probably add a list of them to our repository. That's a good question.
Thank you so much.
Otherwise, you can find us on the Slack channel if you're over there. We have a
Yeah, I'm
transparency
there.
exchange API. Yeah.
Even
So
I
feel
just put
free
it in
to-
the link to the playlist. We've got not only do we have like a CycloneDX YouTube channel, but we have a
Right.
dedicated playlist for all the different working groups, including this one. So
Right.
that playlist that I just posted the link to is all the prior recordings.
Thank you so much.
Nice.
This is very, very helpful. I think there are not many videos, so I can go through each one of them by the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And later today, there should hopefully be one more.
What tool
Thank
do
you.
you use for your editing, Steve?
I usually don't need to edit videos. I actually used to work for a video production company in a prior life.
Okay.
So I'm very, very familiar with video workflows and stuff like that. I was previously using Adobe Premiere, but once they went all cloud and stuff like that, I was looking for alternatives. The alternative that I settled on is DaVinci Resolve. So I use Resolve. It's certainly not for
Okay.
everyone because it's a professional NLE, but if it's certainly not a consumer tool, let's put it that way. But that's a tool that I use because it has all the advanced things like green screens and animations and all kinds of other things that you can do. Color grading.
I can recommend a tool that I've used actually, which is interesting enough, not a tool for video editing, but actually works really well for video editing, which is ScreenFlow, which is a screen recording tool, casting tool initially. But it actually, I do all my podcasts in that, and actually, It's not
Cool.
as powerful as say Final Cut or not, but it gets the job done for very basic editing.
Yep. Okay, Valerio, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just 2 words on what is going on in Amsterdam, because I'm Amsterdam-based. So I see that there is workshop Amsterdam, December.
Yes, OpenSSF and Linux Foundation Europe is running a workshop on the CRA, and they're going to start a couple of work groups. I haven't got all the details, but if you find me on Slack, I can provide you with a contact person.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
But it's in December, maybe 14, 15, I'm guessing.
Say it's 10, 11 there. I don't know.
Oh, 10, 11, sorry. Okay, that's better. So next week, but that's for open source projects.
I just posted a link to the Slack channel for the org working group within OWASP, because OWASP is participating in the Eclipse initiative along with Apache Foundation and all the other
I
foundations.
talked with Rob about that, yes.
Yeah. So if anyone is interested in participating with that, and I posted the link to the Slack.
Good. I wasn't aware of that group. Beautiful. But the reason why we mentioned this in Koala is that I do believe that Koala can be very important for the CRA implementation acts coming. So we need to make sure that any implementation guides doesn't focus on one single SBOM standard, but are open here.
Yeah, well, I mean, again,
so-
based on the output of this group, I mean, the SBOM format, the standard itself, is going to be deemed irrelevant in most cases. So
that's what we're working on.
Yeah.
Slowly killing CycloneDX. Oh, sorry, I didn't say it. Okay then, folks. Very nice seeing you. I think we have one more meeting before Christmas. So I'm hoping to see you then. I will try to find time for another kind of developer hash things out meeting. But if you want to have just a brainstorm, we can start a huddle in Slack or anything. Just find me or Victor or Paul over there. I will be happy to help you. Thank you for today. See you all in 2 weeks.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.